Hey, what's going on, everybody? And thanks for joining us again. We are live, working out some kinks. Somebody's got to be here when the backbone comes back. The kinks are going to get standardized. All right, so on the docket for today, Hilary Clinton finds an infectious disease in America. We need to eradicate this Trump cult. Secondly, I'm of the belief that Mammoths are going to be released in 2024. Yeah. They're going to be like a new iPhone. They're going to be releasing an extinct animal. And then to the crux of a conversation I cannot wait to talk about. And it's that Kevin Spacey is out here. He's back. He's exonerated, a free man. And he's out here giving lectures about cancel culture and the poison that comes with it. Because pedophiles don't like being canceled. And finally, there's parasites in our food. And I think just pile on the tragedy. But before we get into the show, let me introduce my co-host, David Cunningham. Thanks for joining us, my friend.
Oh, absolutely. It's great to be here. I'm glad you're back. You didn't get any secret documents here from Mar-a-Lago like I thought you would. However, and it looks like you're cosplaying as a Disney adult all the way back from Universal.
Adult, okay? They're a little bit cooler.
Yeah, so it was nice to be the man, be the show, really take the rethink tank by its proverbial balls here. And we can't have a show without our buddy, the man behind the keyboards, Mr. Brian. How are we doing today?
Doing well. How are you? I mean, you guys already answered that, but I'm doing pretty well. I'm out here doing my thing and trying to stay busy in my free time, stay active. Don't forget them ski passes, people.
No.
All right, cool. Something I was super itching to talk about. I'm going to give like a brief statement on it because it was huge and pressing, and I had to let you guys take the floor on a huge conversation. You'd be amazed how many people reached out to me to hear, what are your thoughts about the Israel-Palestine? Okay. It's been a long 2 weeks since I've been in this chair to actually address this point. A lot has happened in that. My initial knee-jerk reaction was directed towards Israel. I feel bad for the Palestinian people, and I don't feel bad for terrorists. I do not feel bad for barbaric, treacherous human beings that are doing evil things to other evil people. Who I do feel bad for are people that just happen to be of a different ethnic background and are in a terrible circumstance. They are stuck on the Gaza Strip. Egypt and Lebanon are refusing to allow them to move. They are imprisoned in this place. And Israel, because they're just so freaking evil, just love poking and prodding at these desperate, pathetic people, because that's what they so desperately need them in that situation. I do hold Israel in that light because we need to find, and this is the crux of my point. I think they're both the evil actors committing evil are both a problem. I resonate with Egypt. As we're sitting here, I feel bad for Mexicans. I'd love for you to come in here. I'm different than those people. I want you to come here, just pay taxes. They don't want you in their country, period. But I also respect, I don't need a flood of refugees in a country I'm already having problems controlling. So that makes sense to me.
Yep.
At the same time, that doesn't make their situation any better. And we need to acknowledge, this is my point. Brian, if you could switch the camera. This is truly my point. Because I've been itching to say this, and somebody needs to say this. This position, both of them, we have cultures of autistic people. You're autistic. If you are so hyper obsessed with a rock, you need to start so hyper fixated, millions of lives are just a casualty for what's necessary in the name of God. That's autism. So now back to my point about the Israelis. The fact that you have people, a group of people whose book also preaches the fact that we are the chosen people and we are better than all people and we are God's people. And I was going to have Brian play a clip, but it's just too long and certainly not worth it. But they just you go to Israelites on the ground and they spit at Christians, Catholics, Muslims. They truly believe we're all cockroaches and they are the chosen people. It is autistic to think this rock is the chosen rock. And the people on the rock in Australia and in Poland and in Canada and in the Arctics, well, they're not going to get in. God, they're not going to get in because they're not the chosen people. They don't get into heaven. On the flip side, the Palestinians are just as equally autistic. And this is just a symptom of misguided religions. I'm sorry. This is why they say you can't talk about religion at dinner, because at this point, everybody's gotten up for dinner and left. I've said enough. But when it comes to the Palestinians on the other side of the coin, you think, well, we're not really the chosen people, but the loophole of God is if I stand on this rock and control the rock, I get in. I may not be the good one. I may not be the chosen one, but God can't stop us if we're on the chosen rock. Think about what you're doing when you are trying to propagandize me with slews of pictures of trash bags of babies. And I'm just totally disgusted by terrorists with beheaded just pictures. If the root of all of that is this rock is a special rock and I'm willing to kill people over it, we need to start evaluating people in their rocks. I'm sorry. You can respond if you'd like. I know you've kind of already flushed this out. I've thrown a lot at you, but
absolutely.
I needed to let some of the steam out when it comes to this issue.
Oh no, you've been really bottling this in, so I'm glad you're able to evacuate. The
discharge
thoughts, discharge the thoughts inside your head here. But I don't think I have too much different outside of I do have sympathy for those that are in this position, and it is unfortunate that we seem to just keep poking with the sticks. Like, come on, do something. Keep doing something. I think there's a lot in our government right now that wishes Iran would actually do something. It's like, hey, throw a missile over there. Do something. Do some bad stuff so we can get involved. We're just itching to get into another war here because Ukraine isn't enough. We can't have boots on the ground, but we're definitely we could have boots on the ground in Israel.
Right?
There's no NATO pact here. It could just be mano a mano. So I wonder how much of this is really going to lead to a World War III versus we're just trying to get into another forever war just to say just for the military industrial complex, get right back in there. So both governments need to chill, take a real chill pill and just, we're done. Stop.
So last point.
Okay.
We have a group of people that hates us.
Yep.
They actually militarize against us. For some reason, we give them $6 billion. On that same parliament floor, they follow the congressional meeting by chanting death to America. So apparently $6 billion isn't enough to buy muting the chant death to America. So we give them $6 billion. They give the $6 billion to Palestine to create terrorist attacks to inflict on Israel, for us to almost immediately follow up with $4 billion that we're going to give to Israel. So all I'm seeing is $10 billion of our money, and who's getting it? Palestine isn't taking it and buying strawberries.
No.
And Israel isn't taking it and buying flour. So that they're buying the same bang, bang, skeet, skeet. And all I want to know is, I imagine the person that sells the bang bangs is probably the same person. And we just gave that person $10 billion through two sides.
Hey, if you play both sides, you're bound to win.
Well, what a perfect transition to the Trump cult, because our Lord and Savior, Donald Orange Man Trump, he also was the probably a reason why he's in the crosshairs is because he spoke out against this war machine that he's like, they hate me because I don't want to go to all these wars and put your sons at risk. So let's transition now to the first topic of the day.
All right, lay it on me.
Hilary Clinton warns the American public of the vermin that is the Trump cult. Now, I'm reluctant to admit that she has some virtues in her point, but also many, many pitfalls. Brian, do you think you could play the Hillary Clinton video for us as she makes her exclamations? She's got a lot to say about where we're at.
She does. And Hillary has a knack for wanting to get involved, and she can't just not say something.
Wrong one.
No, that's it.
Yeah, no, I clicked on the wrong one.
Oh, well,
fine.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stop screaming.
Well, but
present.
she just can't. Is there a spotlight Hillary Clinton doesn't think she belongs to?
Well, it's just so fun. I love the theme of the day is all of the ghosts from our past come back crawling to haunt us. Here, can you start it over?
There we go.
Can you move the microphone closer to the computer?
Wasn't this little tail of extremism waving, wagging the dog of the Republican Party as it is today? And sadly, so many of those extremists, those MAGA extremists, take their marching orders from Donald Trump, who has no credibility left by any measure. He's only in it for himself. He's now defending himself in civil actions and criminal actions. And when do they break with him? Because at some point, maybe there needs to be a formal deprogramming of the cult members, but something.
All right. So she goes on a little bit longer to talk about how she needs that. This is a pressing issue. I do not disagree with the fact that there is a Trump delusion. The people that voted for Trump got to, because when the whole world around them called them racist, misogynist, homophobic, xenophobic, whatever they could make up, color phobic,
Just dumb Southerners, uneducated.
Yes, exactly. A basket of deplorables. When you were made out by the whole world around you to be this rat, and you actually saw some virtues that nobody chooses bad situations. These people may have been wrong, but they truly believe this was for the betterment of our society.
Yep.
So they were making these decisions. The scary part is, at what point did they remove themselves from what's best and fully entrench themselves into orange man no matter what?
Yeah.
I think it was a knee-jerk symptom to people who were, it doesn't matter if we're voting in a dead guy as long as it isn't Trump.
Yep.
The adverse symptom to that is Trump no matter what.
Yep.
And when we take a step back, I think, as somebody who wanted to first vote for Bernie Sanders, and that was taken away from me, so I ended up voting for Trump. And then the second time I saw a dead guy, I wanted to vote for Tulsi Gabbard, but I saw how absolutely torrential it would be if we voted in the dead guy and Camel Lady. And so I voted for the orange man again, and I will never do that. I will never vote again for the opposite of what I don't like. Even if I'm the only person that voted for Tulsi Gabbard, I'd sleep better at night knowing I did what my heart wanted.
Yeah.
So what's scary is I don't think there's many critical thinkers still entrenched in Trump. Like DeSantis, Ramaswamy, they're all clear shills to the machine. And so people don't really necessarily want to entertain them because that's the machine trying to get its Republican steer back.
Yep.
But at the same time, we need to recognize that you're just entrenching. It was good. I could see the mind thought of throw the monkey wrench in the gears in 2016. The government is a swamp, drain the swamp. At the same time, that didn't happen.
No.
He showed to probably be a piece of that same swamp that we're trying to defeat.
Yep.
And any critical thinker today who isn't entrenched in the Trump cult would recognize that even if I wanted him and even if I liked him, he isn't the best decision for America right now.
No.
And that lends itself to there probably is, and not probably, there certainly is a embedded Trump cult.
Yeah. Well, it's a cult of personality, really. And I think a lot of the Trump quote unquote cultists of him weren't in politics prior to him getting to they weren't into politics prior to him getting involved in the electoral race. They were they were just kind of there. They were floated around. They weren't involved. And all of a sudden they saw this man, they saw this idea. It's like, oh, this is a man that speaks for me and speaks to everything that I hate about the United States, the world, the government, everything. My wife, my kids, my neighbors, hate it all. And he spoke directly at those people. And now I'm just going to attach my personality to that. It's like the Disney adults who make their personality loving Trump. That's it. That's all they really have. That's all they have going for him is Trump. So when you put so much effort and you put so much emotion into a personality and a man, well, when he does crazy kooky things, well, those followers tend to think that's quite all right. I really enjoy it. There's still QAnon is still eventually going to overthrow the government. We're just waiting for his final signal. So yeah, I don't. So I think on Hillary's point here, I don't think there is a lot of what she said, maybe a little bit tongue in cheek. I think there's a bit of earnestness in that. In that saying with the deprogramming, but definitely I think we all kind of get, if we're honest with ourselves, I think we all kind of get, Trump's a little, maybe not the best. I think you put it very well. He's not the best for the country right now.
So I'm just getting a video prepped for the end of the episode, so that's kind of why I'm toying around here.
Yeah.
But I want to let you know, I agree with you, but there's one trigger point that I have with Hillary Clinton.
Okay.
And that's her saying we need a formal deprogramming of the Trump cult. Okay. So we just talked about a delirium across America. How do you define a delirium, a mental infection? Okay, you can't. It's immeasurable. So what does a formal deprogramming present itself as? You're going to round up the Trumpers, and where are you going to put them, huh? Where you put the Japanese in World War II? What are you looking to do here, you Nazi? So all I'm saying is mental infections can only be defeated. And again, I admit it's the thing I hate is the result of every inquiry of this show. But the reality is all of this is solved with sorry, I got distracted. Brian, I want to give you the heads up. We do not necessarily have heat in here. I have my dad coming out to fix it. So if it just starts blowing and makes it cooler, it probably is better being off.
Yeah.
I just want to give you that.
My nips get a little hard.
Warmed it
It's
up
probably a
last
little
week.
too cold.
Good. All right, then leave it. But the last couple nights, I'm like, what is going on? So it might have been me.
Yeah.
Anyway, so with the formal deprogramming, my question is, how does it present itself to the public? And then what does that formally look like? Because like I said, the thing I hate about the result of every inquiry in the Rethink Tank is education. So if you aren't willing to defeat the mind virus with formal dialogue and debate and actually trying to teach you, they can learn. But no, when you classify them as a basket of deplorables, they're unfixable. They're throw the baby out with the bathwater. Those are your neighbors, sometimes your family members, and you're willing to just shut the door on them. You want to throw them in a concentration camp. That's scary. And while I do believe truly there is a Trump delirium, I think a lot of the people who are caught under the Trump sickness at first had good intentions.
Yeah.
And what I can truly say is more than a Trump cult, the Democrat cult is even sicker. You have people that they are so blind to their politics and who represents them that they are willing to just throw a vote at whatever the big team tells them to. Team Blue says dead guy this time. Hell yeah. Team Blue says a lady with war crimes. Break the ceiling.
Let's go.
It doesn't matter. Next time, it doesn't matter who they put there. Gavin Newsom won't let you go to Vineyards, but he'll keep his open. They'll keep everybody.
Yeah.
Whoever you throw in front of me, they aren't free thinkers. And one thing I've said forever, what was so cool in the heart of 2016, and especially the summer of love when we were throwing bar stools through Starbucks, you could literally log into Twitter and see your Congress operating live every day. You could log in and watch your representatives represent your interests. And if you truly watched them, you very quickly realize The blue team has none of our interests in mind. Their interests are sold elsewhere. But I know you don't do the homework. I know I was the only one on a June afternoon watching our clowns dance. You weren't. You were watching Botched. And yet they say they're the good guys, so I'm willing to vote for them.
Could you see, like, all right, so if you did log on and you watched them frequently, did you ever see anybody with like huge financial interests come in and be like, hey guys, actually, if you wanted to throw this bill, I got an extra 100,000 for you.
Dude,
Anybody? 100,000, 100,000? Anybody?
I wish they were that blatant about it. I really do.
Yes.
I would love to see. I want them to be like NASCAR sponsors. Like, all right, let's see who's sponsoring you, who's doing this. I wish they were that obvious, because at least it'd be the transparency would be all out there, just like they do with the stock trading. They're not afraid to show their hand. I just wish they could show their hand a little quicker. They have a 30-day delay, but that's we're one bill at a time here on this.
Well, so what's even funnier is I like Brian's question, because even though they're not like, hey, Shell told me to stop, you stop talking. Like, I'm going to filibuster now because Shell told me to. No, not necessarily. Yeah. But if you watched with a keen enough eye, they don't have to say Shell. Them going like, hey, ignore the outcomes of that oil bill. It's like, okay, I see what's going on here. And what I loved more than anything, the thing that spoke to the blue team the most, Summer of Love, they make a committee that's going to investigate the crimes of these insurrectionists. Yep. Okay, not the J6 people, the people outside of Starbucks in August. Those insurrectionists, when it came time to Ted Cruz, and I can't remember the attorney who they brought in, who was the attorney general for the country at the time. They brought him.
Merrick Garland?
No. It was a heavier set white guy. I can't remember.
Well,
anyway,
you gotta be more specific than that when you're talking Congress.
Yeah, especially when we're talking about Congress. They walk in and they're trying to investigate these crimes. And you could see half of them were truly trying to like call out the injustices. Hyperbolic Jim Jordan was like, hey, they're burning. What happened to the bricks that just was put outside of City Hall? And they're like, hey, shut up, dude. Stop talking.
It's just soup cans.
Yeah, exactly. It's just soup. It's just soup. Inside joke for anybody that knows. Anyway, when it comes to check out old Gurgat content. Anyway, when it came to the people that weren't on the team of Jim Jordan, those people that were supposedly representing your interests, they spent more time patting themselves on the back and wanting to hear themselves talk. Here's the attorney general. We have the chance to grill him on what we claim was not a crime and what the attorney general is saying was. These women, and I say women because they were blue team women, they'd be screaming, hey, you better answer this question. This is a big question. What do you think about this question? And he'd go, so, and then he'd go, stop talking. This is my time to question. Shut up. So my question is, why did you do? And he'd go, so no, I have 3 minutes. You are mansplaining. You are talking over me. Dude, he never got to talk. He never answered a question. I'm sitting there going, if any one of you clowns logged in and watched this once, you'd go, I don't think the blue team is speaking for us. I think the blue team is speaking for the blue team. It drove me, and that's my premise. Is you aren't doing the homework, because the second you do, you realize so quickly they don't represent me or my neighbor.
No, it's a circle jerk amongst all of them. That is it's infinite. Their ideas are great. They preach a good message, but then when it comes down to actually governing and their governance, it is very much not practicing what they're preaching. They'll pay lip service. They'll be able to talk about it. They'll put a glowing light on it. They'll feature it every now and then. They'll have their black square. They'll have their rainbow flag on their page. But when it actually comes to helping supporting those communities and really doing a difference for the people of the United States, they're nowhere to be found. They're in another room. This bill's being talked about in a different way, and just say, no, just hear my words. Don't focus on my actions. So this is, I think it's just it's all tying this back to Hillary Clinton too here. This is classic. Well, I'm going to say this, and there was definitely a cult of Hillary as well. Very much a cult of Hillary. Now, those members of that cult were probably of a higher social status than the ones of the Trump cult that I think she's referring to. However, it is very much, if we remember back in 2016, right before the results came in, it was hot and heavy for Hillary Clinton. There wasn't a socially liberal female within 50 miles of any given spot in the United States that wasn't preaching to you on social media. You better vote for Hillary.
Oh yeah.
This is our one and only opportunity to have a woman in the United States presidency. And I don't care if she's a woman. That doesn't matter. That doesn't matter to me. And according to the Democratic Party too, it also doesn't matter to them.
Yeah.
But that's a whole other different topic. So I think both sides really need to be deprogrammed a little bit. Or do we need to take a step back and go, let's reevaluate our priorities here and how we root for our teams?
2 points. One of them's an inquiry to you. But first, I find it very funny. You got a Hillary Clinton, and what was your platform? I am this big, bad, autonomous politician. Ignore my husband, the president. I am even better of a politician. I'm this godly American. And yet 2016 was stolen from you by Russia. And yet your entire existence, your only relevance for the last 7 years has been piggybacking off of Trump's existence. If Trump didn't exist, you have nothing to talk about, and you quickly realize none of us want to hear from you. Secondly, a bigger point, and I want to kind of pitch the inquiry to you.
All right.
I scratched upon it, then I got a little crazy. When somebody says formal deprogramming, like you kind of slipped, like you slipped it in, like, yeah, we should all be deprogrammed a bit. But like, she is using a serpent's tongue, saying we need a formal deprogramming. That's planting a seed. That is, again, the fall of World War I. No Germans hated Jews. And then a man with a serpent's tongue, the greatest orator to hit the rock, not the rock that gets you the free pass to God, but a different part of the rock.
Different rock.
Crack rock.
The crack rock. He was on a lot of crack.
Yeah, he was very
so
much on a lot of
the guy
crack.
cracked out. The greatest orator on his little part of the rock was able to use his serpent's tongue and convince everybody around them that the problems of World War I are those neighbors wearing a different jersey. The crazy star that we don't get it. It's different than us. So there's something to the seed she's planting. She further creates the other and encourages people to think that way and justifies treating people different for that ideological divide. I find that repulsive and incredibly scary. Again, maybe they all need a little deprogramming in the fun verbal sense. But when I ask you what that means, I'm sure you aren't taking the position that we collect them all and put them somewhere.
No. Especially with the formal. Formal does mean, who picks and chooses what's right think and or wrong think. And I think I think maybe some of the parallels might be a little hyperbolic, but definitely she really kind of threw that one out there. I still think it's 80% tongue in cheek. I really do think it's 80% tongue in cheek. It's that 20% of, I wouldn't do it. I don't necessarily think this is new rhetoric from even Democratic leadership. I think she's just saying the quiet part out loud. I mean, just look at any social media posts by anyone with any sort of like liberal following. That you'll probably go 10 minutes and you'll see that all the time.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
That's a great point. I think I've exhausted everything I have to say about this. My position is this: if you are blindly following politics, whether it's a leader, a name, or it's still coming, either you're following a specific person or just anybody that wears the team jersey. That's a problem.
Yeah.
I don't think Robert Kennedy Jr. is the answer. But when I tell you I was tickled pink on October 9th, my birthday, when he announced he's going independent, I don't even think he'll win, let alone maybe he should win through that. But what I love is fine. That's the real diversity. I don't need a token person sitting in the office just to make us feel like we're hitting the color wheel.
Yeah.
What I really need is a true diversity of thought and background. That's what it provides us. Finally, more options. We need to break the bipartisan chokehold. And so entrenching yourself in a person or a team is setting yourself up on a battleship and you're just waiting for it to sink.
Yeah.
You've tied yourself to a ship. It's going to sink.
Oh, absolutely. For better or for worse, really.
Do you have any wrapping thoughts? Then we'll toss it to Brian.
No, I think outside of, I agree with you. Decoupling ourselves from the partisan, just the party politics and just the red team, blue team side of things, this is where I really think the past the post voting systems is this has an opportunity to kind of uphold that. But I don't. This is where I'm pessimistic. I don't think this is going away anytime soon. It's going to be red team, blue team for quite a long time.
That's so sad.
Yeah.
I hope you're wrong, but you're right. Brian, final thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just wondering what that whole seed will blossom into with the whole, like, what programs actually are funded or contributed
That's where it gets murky.
by Trump.
When they start taking, or just funding. What if they start taking tax dollars and start funding programs? Re-education programs like they have in China.
Yeah, that's
I guess
whole
more cheap labor in the
scary,
United States, though.
whole scary slew
The
of
iPhone's coming back to
information.
Oklahoma. Yeah. All right,
Alrighty.
let's get to the next topic here. Like I said, old ghosts coming back to haunt us. Woolly mammoths back from the dead? Extinct animals. We're talking about a real-life Jurassic Park with purpose, they say. 100 mammoths are going to be released in a park in Siberia in 2024. That's coming up quick. And I love the language they use. A new woolly mammoth being launched in 2024, like it's a new iPhone. What they're doing is the closest genetic variation of elephant to the mammoth is an Indian elephant. And so through CRISPR technology, they're going to reconfigure the elephant DNA with the replace the missing mammoth DNA with that Indian elephant DNA. Then they're going to implant that and create an embryo that they will plant in an Indian elephant. It will birth a mammoth elephant, and they're going to take 100 of them to Siberia. I mean, just imagine taking 100 mammoths to Siberia. But what they're hoping to do is see if they can add megafauna back into the Arctic ecosphere and offset the carbon emissions. So what are your thoughts?
Oh, well, I think the second part, the doing this all for the carbon emissions, to me sounds like they got a government grant. They needed to offset some carbon emissions to be able to do this pet project they have. I always wondered at what point we're going to start seeing woolly mammoths, because they did exist within the time of the people. And there's probably some exhibits out there you can touch and feel actual woolly mammoth, I guess, wool. But it's exciting. I'm a fan of Jurassic Park, and I'm even brave enough to have the unpopular opinion of, let's bring back a Jurassic Park. I understand the movie.
Man.
I understand the book said this isn't a good idea for X, Y, and Z, but I think we can. I think we have the power to be able to control these animals.
My initial impression was the exact opposite. I'm like, this is cool. Test the technology. I get it. At the same time, thank God it's an elephant and not a T-Rex. Like, the second you're mixing a gecko with a Tyrannosaurus Rex, like, no thank you. No thank you. But, all right. Let's get into like a philosophical moral debate.
Okay.
I used to, if you were to go to episode first 5 of this podcast, I'm pretty confident I was very outspoken about saving zoos. I have totally changed in that
Like saving
regard.
zoos, as
like keep zoos.
Okay, yeah.
These liberals are taking our zoos.
Taking our zoos.
I just couldn't. But I've changed
Okay.
drastically.
What changed?
There's a new form of observing these types of. I used to say it was educational, and yeah, utilitarianism. It's sad that this one might be suffering. At the same time, it's one elephant in the scheme of millions, and the benefit it offers to the community of Americans or just your community people that get to see these things they otherwise wouldn't. There's a lot of educational value, and I thought it outweighed maybe the detriments. I think stories like Blackfish, like what SeaWorld's doing.
Yep.
And really you just go to a zoo now. Like you're not a kid that's never seen a gorilla before, that's just lost in awe of a tiger. I've seen them.
Mhm.
Now I have that plus the perspective of age. And you walk in there and they're just sad. It's just a sad existence. And when there's this new evolution of zoos where they can take you to where they're at, or they make reservations where they're saving these animals and you can go to the reservation and watch them in their habitat. Like I just saw a picture of like a new habitat zoo in China where they put you in the cage and drive you through the habitat.
Yeah.
Like that's what it should be. So in regards to dinosaurs, it'd be cool. I see the value of something that I otherwise would never literally know exists. It's just a genetic assumption. But what we really want is like the symptoms that come with that can be very dangerous.
Yeah, there's definitely a you
So
open
want
that
safety.
you open that Pandora's box and you don't know what's going to come back through. And I think a lot of that comes down with like bacteria, like, bringing back the bubonic plague, probably not good for mankind. But I think when it comes to like very large animals, I don't see elephants getting out of hand to be able to cause wreck within an ecosystem. When you start bringing back like bugs or smaller things that can really take a chokehold, like sharks, I'm sure if you could probably bring back the megalodon, she's going to thrive and she's going to do real well. Where I disagree with you on the zoos being like the animals being sad, I think that's true only for the very intelligent animals. So that's
saying dinosaurs aren't intelligent.
I'm saying dinosaurs are not intelligent, and I don't think elephants are really all that much more intelligent either.
What? Elephants are brilliant.
They're smart in comparison to like the rhino. They're not that intelligent in comparison to like a dolphin.
They have the okay. Unfair. You
All right.
compared it to literally the one animal that's probably smarter than us. It's probably running its own underwater Atlantis society.
Yeah.
That's the animal you picked.
Yeah, those are very
other
intelligent.
animal gets buried by the brilliance and memory retention of a elephant.
The elephants have great memory retention, but I don't think they have the logic-based skills to be able to write, because there's a self-reflection of knowing you're in a cage and knowing you're being looked at. I don't think elephants quite have that, because elephants are probably closer to more like farm animals and cattle than they are to apes and dolphins, where they have a bit more free roaming nature. Elephants have a territory, and what we see with territorial animals is they like their spots. And they don't like to move away from the spot. Like if you have like sheep or, like herding animals.
Because they familiarize themselves with the spot. This is my spot.
Exactly. But
I like the tree.
But we
it's
see
not
like
that far from the pond.
Dolphins, apes, us, we like
okay,
venturing.
I'll give you that.
We like
Monkeys
going
obviously have a little bit of a tier above that too.
This is where I
monkeys have hit the Stone Age. Have you read that?
I have not. What?
So monkeys have officially hit the Stone Age. Like they have developed in generational intelligence so far that they're slowly learning fire, the concept of fire. They're learning how to build tools, spears, hunting utensils with sticks and rocks, and they have officially hit the Stone Age.
Now, do you think some of that's learned behavior from watching us do it?
100% learned behavior.
Which then brings into question, well, did we see some ancient aliens out there do it at one point? Is that
here's the question.
All right.
Does your position change the second they want to start CRISPRing up some like super dinosaur gorillas?
Well, when you start playing God to an extent where you're making,
which is what's going on.
Well,
welcome to the theme of Jurassic Park.
yeah. So the Jurassic Park, they messed with something they didn't understand. At least with woolly mammoths, we have a concept and understanding of what they are.
Dude, how funny would it be? We create these woolly mammoths because they're just like elephants, but they're hairy, and then they just like fart missiles out their ass.
That would be unexpected.
We did not expect that. They breathe fire, and we're just like, whoa,
Ooh, we let that cat out of the
unpredicted.
cage. But I trust humanity to be able to handle
Pretty
100.
badass.
I trust humanity to be able to handle 100 hairy elephants versus like a bubonic plague. I think we can, if let's say these elephants do have weapons of mass destruction capabilities, I think we can fire back. And I think we've shown we're pretty good at doing so.
So what about parasites? And we're going to get down the parasite lane here at the end of the episode, but like parasites, viruses that like act different in different species, animals, life forms. What if this is kind of like an incubator or a petri dish for something that develops that only would have developed in this Stone Age animal type or Jurassic type animal?
No. Like if something were to carry over of that, oh, absolutely. That's
only develop in this type that then.
That's when you're messing with things you don't understand. And that would file that under we don't understand. This is probably right around with like frequencies and radio waves where we probably need to really regulate this and make sure very few people have that technology. Because you could just see how this goes bad. Well, I'm going to make a super genetic elephant to beat the other super genetic elephant that's in this theme park. And then all of a sudden we have this this race to the bottom or race to the top of who can make the biggest elephant, and all of a sudden we created something that we can't turn the page on. That's where I fear it. But I think as the technology is presenting itself right now, I see this as an opportunity to see how much can we push this technology to the benefit of mankind, and fully understanding the.
So are you buying the carbon emissions thing? That's math. I'm still not getting.
I'm not
getting that math.
I think they're only we got something here.
Feeding off of the whole
you've been sitting on this one.
Yeah. Feeding off that whole idea. Do you think 100 you said 100, right? 100 mammoths being introduced into the public. Do you think that's enough to avoid enough genetic variation to avoid inbreeding?
Oh,
because
I don't think so.
I mean,
just a real quick other question, just to like really throw back to old Rethink Tank. Like I'm talking in my bedroom in law school. One of the first inquiries we had was, how many chickens would it take to kill an elephant? What's your answer?
You probably need like 10,000.
I mean, like I said, when I was a child, when I started this question, like one giant like nose swipe just would clear out 100 easily. Chickens, just
maybe.
But those little pecks, man, like ding, 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 and everywhere, all the time. Like how many?
Yeah, and that's 10,000 is. Well, I still think 10,000 because you know how like that's how many like chickens are in those like chicken farm barns where they're free range, but they're all in a barn. That's like they fill up an entire like warehouse floor. That's 10,000.
Whoa,
that's a lot of chickens. And the elephant.
And is that enough?
I think that's enough. You could at one point just smother the elephant. Have you ever been in a chicken barn? It is awful.
So I mean, if you didn't feed the chickens for a while,
well, what's the elephant gonna eat?
I'm gonna go with 5,643.
Oh,
hey, that was the exact number for licks to the center of the lollipop. So let's get to one other thing that I like that point, Brian, and back to kind of something David brought up. Limiting the tech. One of the things that really triggered me about the story was like, I love the concept and idea of CRISPR technology. This thing that the government so desperately wants to limit and control, but has been a sentiment to the human hive. This is what CRISPR technology is. It's not illegal, but there isn't any proactive science for you to just like take it up as a profession or do it in a more organized, formal fashion. This is totally informal. People are buying kits on the internet, getting stuff sent to them. They're getting beakers and giant like electric, whatever the test tube thing, where you draw, whatever they are.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
pipette.
Yes, pipette. Thank you. Like super precise pipettes, all the tech to literally dissect and manipulate genes. These people are creating the genes, putting them in their own body. This guy made his dog glow like he took the genes of a lightning bug, put it in his dog, and his dog glowed. And he started doing all these. The people are able to build muscle mass, and they're kind of, it's like human modding. Again, leads down a dangerous road. You don't know what you don't know what dangers you've opened until the cat's already out of the bag. But this is an old technology. This is something we've been playing with for years, and I love the development. There's some really cool developments that are coming from this. The world that defeats cancer, that defeats Alzheimer's, that defeats these things that have lingered over us forever, that are genetic based, are easily defeated once we plug into the human hive and let all these people, again, it's illegal to have human lab rats, but it's not illegal for you to allow yourself to be your own lab rat.
Yeah.
So if people are doing these on their own, we're going to have some failures. And I just fear the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde situation. But aside from that, you're still possibly going to reach the end result we so desperately need, and it's going to get us there quicker and more effectively.
We're pushing ourselves to the final stage of human evolution, whatever we perceive that to be. That's old school science fiction too. That's real big K knowledge stuff there.
And what's wild is that's happening outside of government intervention.
Yeah.
So I hear you. We need to limit this. We need to watch this. But who? And when it keeps coming back to Big Brother, is that arbiter of truth? I'd rather us just figure it out. Like, I'd rather one guy just be walking down the street with a giant bicep that he's dragging. Like, yeah, guys, I screwed it up. Don't do this one. Like that, I'd much rather have than the government going, nope, nobody gets to do it, period. Nobody never. And then we're all walking around with tumors that we can't get rid of, but we easily probably could if we kind of allowed the floodgates.
Yeah, and I think there's also discussion of limiting it as well. So you can theoretically do what you want to your own body, but when you start doing other things to other bodies, that's where it starts getting. I could easily see just
that's the
horrific state where you're so obsessed over this human genome project, and you start doing it on your children.
It becomes Epstein-esque. Yeah, you're doing it on your children, but it becomes Epstein-esque where they prey upon desperate poor people. And it's like, listen, I don't want to get a third eye. I'll pay you 10 grand. You need it.
Yep.
I'll give you 10 grand. Let me change your DNA.
Yeah. I don't want to unlock the opportunity to prey another way to prey on the poor and the desperate.
I mean, why would you do that? Our government does that for billions of dollars.
They do.
Because do you realize you were the same CRISPR experiment? You took an RNA vaccine that totally changed your DNA, and there's no liability for the clowns that put it in your body because, oh shit, we might have messed this up, and it may not work totally for anybody or everybody. And so all of the results we're not culpable for. Yeah, you were that CRISPR experiment. So here's my problem for it. If Mr. Pfizer and his cronies get to experiment with CRISPR, Big Brother doesn't get to stop us.
Yeah. We'll see. When you start growing a third eye, I'll find out.
No. You're missing my position here. My position is the faith in the human hive. The guy in Oklahoma will grow the third eye, and he'll tell me what not to do. And yet, I just want to be able to plug into that. Lemmings.
Mm-hmm.
Some of us got to walk off cliffs. Some of us got to walk into the fire for us to realize this is the right way. So let a couple of us go in the deep end. I'm going to stay here, but I don't want you to be allowed to stop them. But also let's recognize some weird things can come of that.
Yep. No, I think that's, yeah.
Brian, any rapping thoughts?
Yeah, don't get the second jab unless you really are.
We're on the fourth and
place.
fifth jab, buddy.
Yeah, we're on jab number 7.
If you're on the second jab, you might as well just not do it anymore. You're
Yeah.
done. Just like, I'm done. I'm out.
All right. So Brian, I know you've been shuffling through videos. It is not the guy with the silver. So if you go, it's the one that it probably says, let's be frank. And it's going to be towards the end. So hit the finder.
Okay.
And if you scroll to the bottom, do you see something that says like, let's be frank? Or here.
This might be the most
It's gotta be
important
to that.
video
It's gotta
you
be that,
ever
right
pull
next
up.
to the read. Like, is that not Kevin Spacey to the left?
Yes.
There's 2 of them, yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Alrighty. Let's get everybody
Okay, so
caught
before
up
you
in-
play that,
Okay.
this is the topic I've been most excited for. In terms of demons that have come from the past, or the ghosts from nightmares past, because this ain't Christmas. Kevin Spacey, who has been lost and gone since 2016, 17.
Right around
He
there, yeah.
he is now back, exonerated, free man, and the media has wasted no time singing his praises. Our holy is back. The tagline was that Kevin Spacey is giving a lecture at Oxford University, our compass of morality, on cancel culture because it was just so detrimental. Our Lord's favorite pedophile, just had a rough go at it when the trial of public opinion didn't find him too favorable. There was sexual assault allegations that he was exonerated from. 4 men made the claims of 9 sexual offense charges that spanned from the years of 2004 to 2013. The jury let out for 12 hours. This took place in a London court. This wasn't the American legal system, so take it with a grain of salt and missing a couple teeth. But a lot of the allegations were that he grabbed their crotch in a non-consensual way, something we've heard very common at these Hollywood parties, especially some of Mr. Spacey's best friends. I can't think of his name, but the producer that Jeffrey Weinstein.
Oh, yeah.
Or whatever his name is.
Weinstein.
Weinstein. I'm not gonna.
Yeah, you said it wrong, so I
I
can't
know.
think of it. I'll think of it later and throw it out there.
Weinstein was a best friend of Spacey, and ironically, he was claimed to have done the same thing. One of the people, just a funny tagline, they also made the claim that he was also aggressive and physically tough with them. And he attacked like a cobra. What a tagline. One claimed he was driving when Spacey grabbed his crotch and forced them off the road. The main person here, Anthony Rapp, who was the first person to come out against Spacey, he said that they went for a drink, ended up at Spacey's flat. He then passed out at Spacey's house and woke up to Spacey performing an oral sexual act after he had fallen asleep. So he was totally exonerated. He was able to do his legal team presented 2 legal arguments. One, these accusers did it for the money. Now, it came out in court that there was no money to be had. What money is there for claiming the creepy guy touched you? But they did admit that they did some of them planned to file a lawsuit following the criminal proceeding. So there may be money involved. But the second point, which was the crux for the jury and just blows my mind, his legal team said, quote, "It is not illegal criminal behavior to act like this. Their client liked sex. It's not a crime to like sex. If you're famous, it's not a crime to have casual sex. Mr. Spacey is a man who's promiscuous, but he just wants to be a normal guy, to drink beer, laugh, and smoke weed, and spend time with younger people who he is attracted to." Whoa. And the jury, who deliberated for 12 hours, came back and decided in his favor. Now, do you want me to just really hammer it out before I pass this over to you?
Really hammer it out. I want to see your full points.
Okay, so that's the trial, right? He's
Yes.
exonerated. He's a free man. The crux of the legal position was he likes sex. He's promiscuous, and he just let a guy like young guys. They admit in the legal defense he's got an appetite for young people. I recognize that our public suffers from goldfish syndrome. Okay, so you look at what's flashy, then you look at what's flashy, and you totally forgot. You
Huh?
totally forgot.
What was that?
I'm sorry.
Is that huh?
Huh?
What was that?
Wait, what? So I don't expect you to remember what transpired through this chain of events. But he may have been exonerated in a English court. But I'm still taking the position, creepy pedo man, you are still guilty in the court of in the court of public opinion. Kevin Spacey was accused of sexual accusations by an actor named Anthony Rapp, who made the claim that it occurred in 1986 when he was 14 years old and an aspiring actor. What was so odd when these accusations were made, Kevin Spacey, in a desperate shamble to keep his safe face with the public, he claims that he is gay, and he comes out publicly as gay.
Did do that.
Then he tweets a quasi-apology. Brian, can you pull up that picture?
Video?
The picture of the tweet.
Oh, yes, sir.
Picture of the tweet.
Picture of the tweet. Here
Picture
we
of the
go.
tweet! Picture of the tweet!
It is on the screen.
I have a lot of respect and admiration for Anthony Rapp as an actor. I'm beyond horrified to hear his story. I honestly do not remember the encounter. It would have been over 30 years ago. But if I did behave the way he describes, I owe him my sincerest apology for what would have been deeply inappropriate drunken behavior. And I am sorry for the feelings he describes having carried with him all these years. Well, that's exonerating. This story has encouraged me to address other things about my life. I know that there are stories out there about me, and that some have been fueled by the fact that I have been so protective of my privacy. As those closest to me know, in my life, I have had relationships with both men and women. I have loved and had romantic encounters with men throughout my life, and I choose now to live as a gay man. I want to deal with this honestly and openly, and that starts with examining my own behavior. So in a self-reflective tweet about examining his behavior, he goes, hey, I don't really remember that happening, but if I was drunk and gay. Well, I feel comfortable. So the public became upset because he was trying to deflect attention by using his homosexuality as a scapegoat in a way that many viewed as unfairly bridging the gap between homosexuality and child sex abuse. After being removed from his Netflix show, House of Cards, and being charged formally with sexual assault, he posted the most bizarre video I've ever seen in my life. And I know you forgot about it.
I know exactly what you're talking
to be
about.
Frank Underwood. Brian, if you could please move the microphone close, because every word needs to be caught. Please remember this time when in the midst of all this chaos and being fired from House of Cards, a character who, I will admit, is probably one of the best television characters, is a flat out villain. And the whole world is calling you a villain. You get fired from portraying a villain, and your response is to be the villain threatening the public. That's the way to go. Brian, please play this. Oh, my God.
I know what you want. Oh, sure, they may have tried to separate us, but what we have is too strong. It's too powerful. And after all, we shared everything, you and I told you my deepest, darkest secrets. I showed you exactly what people are capable of. I shocked you with my honesty, but mostly I challenged you and made you think. And you trusted me, even though you knew you shouldn't. So we're not done, no matter what anyone says. And besides, I know what you want. You want me back. Of course, some believed everything and have just been waiting with bated breath to hear me confess it all. They're just dying to have me declare that everything said is true, that I got what I deserved. Wouldn't that be easy? If it was all so simple. Only you and I both know it's never that simple, not in politics and not in life. But you wouldn't believe the worst without evidence, would you? You wouldn't rush to judgments without facts, would you? Did you? No, not you. You're smarter than that. Anyway, all this presumption made for such an unsatisfying ending. And to think it could have been such a memorable send-off. I mean, if you and I have learned nothing else these past years, it's that in life and art, nothing should be off the table. We weren't afraid, not of what we said, and not of what we did, and we're still not afraid. Because I can promise you this. If I didn't pay the price for the things we both know I did do, I'm certainly not going to pay the price for the things I didn't do.
Want, want.
Oh, of course, they're going to say I'm being disrespectful, not playing by the rules, like I ever played by anyone's rules before. I never did, and you loved it. Anyhow, despite all the poppycock, the animosity, the headlines, the impeachment without a trial, despite everything, despite even my own death, I feel surprisingly good. And my confidence grows each day that soon enough you will know the full truth.
So creepy.
Wait a minute. Now that I think of it, you never actually saw me die, did you? Conclusions
come back.
can be so deceiving. Miss me?
There's no
I
way
love-
that's how that ends.
Yeah, the ending is literally like Psycho, like a 1980 horror film. Dun, dun, dun. Let's be frank.
Interesting. So my first thought here, and this might be unpopular. God damn it, he's a good actor. He's a great monologuer. Even I know this is peak silly, peak just ridiculous. Who he thought this was? He edited that.
Thought he did something. He thought he
put
was
that
eating.
together. He probably ran that by a few people and like, you know what, Spacey, that's gonna bring you back right there. You just struck gold, and he just threw that out there. But boy, does he kill it! He really kills it. He had me hooked.
But does that not speak to exactly his point? And he's leaning on the shallow, mindless drone that is the American audience. He goes, I know. He literally opens it with, I know exactly what you want, implying me, and me being on the mindless droning program that you log into every week. So, like, I know what you want, and that's to escape reality, hide from the truth, and just plug into Netflix. And then he follows it up like a minute later with, life and art are nothing. In the world of life and art, nothing is off the table.
Yep.
Implying like all hell's bar, my life, the line between my life and the character I play is transparent, if not invisible. And oftentimes life imitates art just as much as it's the reverse.
Yep.
So I like that. Yeah, I agree. He's a great monologuer, but when I what got me so excited for the article is Kevin Spacey speaks out against cancel culture. And I'm like, all right, he's going to have some unique perspective on the hell he went through having to hide on an island as the government tried to hunt him down. We'll get to that part of the timeline. But again, you're hiding, and you get to take on the position that like cancel culture is a problem and it's toxic. Okay, well, what's this lecture at Oxford? It's you giving a Shakespearean monologue. You had nothing. Like, you also had the opportunity to prepare the illusion of your own words, and you still chose to put on a play. And the whole play was a Shakespearean piece about false accusations. Real quick before I vow to you, though, so he follows up. So in the midst of going, oh, did I do that? I'm drunk and gay now. Like, after that deflection, he makes a video pretending to be a villain that he used to play and making a lot of threatening undertones of like, stop jumping to conclusions because you'll know what, body bags. Following that, 15 more victims came forward. A Boston anchor woman named Heather Andrews came forward and said Spacey abused her son. The majority of the victims came from the Hollywood cycle, including 8 people who worked on the set of House of Cards. So the set that he got fired from, 8 people came forward and claimed for abuse. Now, let's note, Kevin Spacey was also reported at that same time for being on Jeffrey Epstein's flight logs a number of times throughout the early 2000s, and this spanned through 2003 to 2014. After this and the flight logs coming out, he was publicly canceled. He then went on a manhunt and disappeared. The government literally couldn't find him. He was offshores on an island, and there were claims for extradition and all of these things. Finally, it took many months down the road, and he finally turned himself in. But after that, and when he left and went on this hiatus, his manager, his agent, and his publicist all dropped him. The movies he was involved in were canceled, along with the TV shows were also canceled. What's eerie is the number of accusers that have gone missing and or have died after making the claim of this sexual abuse. There are 4 specifically. And again, of the 15, there's more that we just can't find. There are 4 dead, and there are more that are missing.
Oh, the plot thickens.
Right? Kevin Spacey's accuser, Anthony Rapp, after the jury found against him, they also awarded Anthony Rapp, to pay $39,000 in favor of Kevin Spacey. I'm assuming that's tied to legal fees. But all I'm saying is Isaac Cappy, a name market, told us everything we needed to know about Kevin Spacey. He told us this before anything broke. And his notorious past along with his colleagues. And that's why Tom Hanks had to unalive him. So I wish I wanted to, if I had the time, I would have played Isaac Cappy calling out and literally like Babe Ruth calling the Kevin Spacey shot. But again, that's just another piece. I don't want to go down the Isaac Cappy road, but if anybody wants to become educated in the dark arts of these people, a simple Google. You're a Reddit guy. Go down your Reddit hole of Isaac Cappy. And I don't think you'll ever look, even Taylor Swift. I don't think you're going to look at these people the same.
So I think the standing ovation for the Kevin Spacey. So that article, I think that article paints a picture that this is he's back in the limelight. He had this grand lecture, and as you alluded to, it's he didn't really lecture. He did a monologue, which he's very good at. So I could see, you're so I think what happened, you're Oxford, and unfortunately there's Kevin Spacey fans out there that are really want to see him do more. Really want to see him back in the limelight.
Yeah, they do.
You can. So you mentioned Reddit. There is a Kevin Spacey subreddit.
Oh,
4,000 members.
Are you one of them?
I am not one of them.
No.
At least not yet. I don't know. I might have to watch House of Cards again. We'll see if I get back in the swing of things. But it would not shock me if you were promoting this within the University of Oxford, and it's like, oh, Kevin Spacey's gonna be here. Well, let me check that out. I'm kind of half a fan. I either don't pay attention to what happened, or I
want to ignore it,
or I just forgot and ignore it. So I go in, I see him do I'm sure he did a good monologue. And boy, if I don't just feel like I need to stand up and just really give him a good round of applause here. But I don't think society as a whole is ready to have him back. So I do have one example here.
Yeah.
He is doing a press tour for his new movie. And the London Screen Guild,
What
or the
movie?
London, it's a small kind of Dutch, I think it's a Dutch indie film that he helped produce. He either directed, helped produce, one of
but
those
he's
two.
not in it.
He's not in
So
it.
he can hide.
Yep.
Wow.
So he's out there presenting. He's out there promoting it, and all of a
course.
sudden, the London screenings. There were some screenings in London. I don't know if it's a screen guild or some sort of guild. Said, I think we're good. We don't want you here. So that gives me a little bit of hope here that maybe we have one rosy picture of Kevin Spacey while we're still looking at a field of Black Delilahs in his path. So with these Hollywood types do like to come out of the limelight. They really want to be out there. He took a pretty nice little break. I probably venture to guess, probably your average, probably Midwestern family probably hears Kevin Spacey and either forgets or just doesn't remember.
Yeah.
And I bet I hope there isn't an appetite for him to come back, because I think what we've seen with Harvey Weinstein, we're taking that full circle. Harvey Weinstein, he's done. He ain't coming back. He's in jail. No one really wants to see any more of him. With this Me Too movement, we did see a glimpse that Hollywood can be better. Now, was this weaponized? Was this maybe used? You can't have it. You can't have it both ways. You can't. It can be all for good, and we just believe everything all the time. And at the same time, it can't be used for harm. So what I'm optimistic about is we're going to see more and more just stuff come to the limelight here with these Hollywood types, and less of just this seedy underbelly of the entertainment industry, just pulling in. I think desperate people, again, it's always desperate people who see an opportunity for a better life and go, yeah, I'll suck a little pee. I'm not afraid. I'll do it for a better opportunity here. And it's people like Kevin Spacey, people like Harvey Weinstein, people like they're out there willing to prey upon that. So I think
at the same time, I just watched the American Horror Story season that's out right now, and Kim Kardashian, dude, she admittedly looks fine. She looks great.
Yep.
And there's a scene where there's this like frumpy, ugly, obese production head.
Yeah.
And he makes like some comment of like, maybe feeling guilty, whatever it was. And she very quickly and sternly turned around and was like, listen, I want to be very clear. We're both getting something out of this.
Yeah.
Like, I expect you to do this. You're going to do this. You got what you wanted. So like, there's a marketplace. I was listening to some podcasters talk about just beauty in general, and how it's a short-lived tyranny, or whatever the saying is. It's you have this power over the world around you. Doors just open, free things fall in your lap, but it's short-lived.
Yep.
There's literally no human being that has that forever. Google search a picture of Madonna today, and you could just tell it's a human being utterly struggling with that existence, just holding on to what was. So there's a lot of people the people I was listening to were like, take advantage of it. Like, seize the opportunity, take advantage of it, and exploit it for as much and as long as you can.
Take
because
ownership
it's going
of
to be
that,
short-lived. Yes, exactly. So if some of us just hit the lottery with a commodity that's easy to trade socially, you can't hate people for commoditizing it however they want. I will sit here till I'm blue in the face with opinions about people selling pictures of their feet or their puss. At the same time, as much as I have judgments, they can do whatever they want, and they're laughing to the bank. When the symptoms come up, your kid killed themselves because they're going to school with pictures of mom's boobs everywhere. That's a bed you made. You got to lie in it.
Yeah.
But I'm going to let you make your bed. I can't sit here and tell you what you can and can't do. I think similarly to these situations, the problem is I think we've got an effed up public. I made a comment beforehand that I went to Universal and I took my family to this show, and it was the only show they had. And I thought, oh, cool. What a Halloween show do they got? They used to, on a June day, do a Beetlejuice show with Frankenstein. So I'm thinking it's something fun, like bring out Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice is dead there. It's just women in leather. We sat at this show, and it was a sex occult show that had there was no point. It literally, there was no story. I logged into a show with a story, and it was just leather chaps and topless men all over each other. And I'm sitting there with my parents like, oh my God, this is not what I signed up for.
Was it like a burlesque show?
Dude, totally. At a Universal family, like it was freaking weird, man. And
Yeah.
there was, you know what the show was called? Nightmare Fuel. And it delivered. At the same time, though, when I was imagining a show called Nightmare Fuel, definitely not a sex show is what I was expecting. That was not it at all. So why am I bringing this up? What I'm realizing is the really weird, creepy appetite that people have. Are you familiar with McCaney Manor? All right. So here's the scariest haunted house in America, and they spit in your face and punch you, and you have to sign a waiver because you might die, and they're going to break your arm, and it's all this crazy shit. Alongside McCaney Manor, last episode I was on, so 2 weeks ago, we talked about the occult that's on this digital platform through Twitch and Telegram.
Yeah.
And what were they doing? But catering to an audience that was looking for gore
porn. Yeah. Shock value porn.
Yes. And then then they got trapped because they were committing crimes in a chat that had child porn, and they were trapped. So while I'm all for liberty and letting people make their own decisions, we need to start having as somebody that grew up watching Friday the 13th at 8 years old, and parents in awe that my crazy mom and dad were letting me play Mortal Kombat. It says M, and you're letting your child play it. Yet I have no appetite beyond maybe the occasional Saw movie when they can't stop making those movies. Like, aside from that, I don't get where this appetite is just like, I got to catch myself because I want to say, I don't understand where that appetite is justified. But also, who am I to tell people what their appetite can and can't be?
Yeah.
But we need to start having real conversations that the appetite in America is getting creepy, gross, and scary.
You're putting a spotlight on the consequences of that appetite and what in creating that marketplace really does entail for those who are, being preyed upon and don't necessarily. And also I feel bad for the ones that don't want to be involved in it, but yet it's becoming more and more of our, pop culture.
So why do I bring up the appetite piece? Because I'm an aficionado or a fanatic about law and the things it provides. It's a tool. It's never perfect, but we can craft it to get better.
Mm-hmm.
I'm all for law. And so when somebody isn't exonerated and our peers decide there's not enough evidence to convict them, because again, how do you prove waking up to a blowjob? How do you prove that 30 years later, right? So there's very clearly a he said, she said, not enough evidence beyond a reasonable doubt. These are the results of our court system. But back to the appetite point, I want to take on the position that vote with your views, vote with your dollars, something I've always said on this podcast. That is a true blue law of the universe if and when people actually think when they're watching or buying things. And you need to think of it in that frame of, do I support this? So in the conversation of Michael Jackson, or who's the guy that sang coming out the closet and peed on girls? R. Kelly. Bingo. So in a world with R. Kelly and Michael Jackson, where they are proven to be bad actors in this realm, how do you remove the artist from the art?
Yeah.
Something we try to. So I want to get your thoughts on removing the artist from the art, and can you or should you do that? But secondly, in a world where the artist is inevitably tied to the product, do you resonate with the fact that you're supporting this, you're voting for this, and the free man can run free, but as long as we all agree not to turn on that Netflix special, he has no power, and very quickly he falls by the wayside.
Yeah, I think you bring up a couple good points. I think you should be able to, and you should, as a free thinking individual that isn't just follow your own tune. Separate the art from the artist. It's just because you listen to Michael Jackson doesn't make you a pedophile. It's because you watch Kevin Spacey doesn't make you a pedophile. However, your
I say
actions
it does. Go ahead.
your actions do have consequences. So when you do that, when you have that view on Spotify, or you have that, you listen to the podcast, or you participate within the product that they're ultimately putting out, that is in a way it is a vote of confidence for that particular person. It's getting more and more difficult to be able to separate that. Where it used to be, well, I could buy a VHS secondhand, and yeah, I can just watch in my own time, and it's not calculating. But as much as a lot of our data is getting more and more tracked, yeah, it just takes several million people going, I want to see Kevin Spacey do something again on House of Cards, and some exec going, I'll take the hit on this.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to be bad press for a little bit, but once he gets back on that camera, everyone's going to love him. I think it's a deeper sign of, well, is it our culture and society now, or is it just human nature as it's always been? So you got to understand the consequences of your actions. Well, at the same time, I want to watch season 1 of House of Cards. It's a great show. Do I like American Beauty? It's a great movie.
It's true.
So that's
Horrible Bosses.
Horrible Bosses. Yeah. Like there is, I don't necessarily, I can be anti, two things can be true. I can like Kevin Spacey movies and be anti-pedophilia and not support pedophilia.
I agree with you in the foundation of your point. The thing that I majorly disagree on is that material is good. Horrible Bosses is good.
Yep.
But every time I watch it, it benefits Kevin Spacey. So I agree with you, but then also, like, let's just say there's people selling apples.
Yep.
And some are fresher than others, right? Like Kevin Spacey, nobody beats that monologue. Best villain in town. And the market value, Kevin Spacey just isn't as good. But the question is, if Hitler was selling apples and Mahatma Gandhi was selling apples, somebody would agree that as long as there's other apples, you buying an apple from Hitler is funding Hitler.
Mm-hmm.
So in my world, I look at it as, yeah, there may not have been enough evidence for a jury to have to convict you, but you had me convinced. There's a culture in the gay community that very older men have sexual interactions with very younger men. That's just how it goes.
Okay.
It's not the same with the women's side of things, but there's this culture of young men sleeping with older men, and then the roles reverse. And that's its culture. So, taking the position of like, hey, the lines were blurred and it was consensual, and like, all of those things blurs the line. But the second your response is, hey, yeah, if it happened, I was drunk and gay. And then you're making this video of like, stay in your lane, don't ask questions, don't jump to conclusions, because you know what happens. Like, that guy makes me start, like, you just convicted yourself to me. So I just don't want to support you. Go, if you want to change tires as a mechanic, I'm sure somebody needs that, and there's somebody that will employ you. At the same time, though, I don't need to employ you, and I feel like, yes, you can remove this instant of me in my living room with my girlfriend watching Horrible Bosses from a guy that is a known international abuser, but if me doing this still puts a penny in Hitler's pocket, I got to start really questioning if I should. Brian, I know that you've been trying to jump in here.
I kind of wanted to comment on the whole Kim Kardashian. Like, there's a book called Wild, and this beautiful girl goes out in the Pacific Crest Trail, and she knows nothing about hiking, and she just kind of went to REI one day and bought a couple things, and ended up the sack on her back weighed like 90 plus pounds, and she couldn't even stand up. And the whole thing with the beauty is people went and they helped her out and they sought her to almost like be accommodating for her. And she definitely expressed how she knows she's beautiful and she knows people helped her only because she's beautiful. I know that
But
it was a
no,
little bit
but
off
I want to
topic.
draw upon that, like even to like Kevin Spacey's position. You talk about him as a great monologuer.
Yep.
And so here's an audience full of people willing to stand up and give him a standing ovation because regardless of all the things that happen outside of this room, you know, you cracking a skull for adrenochrome, this moment for this Shakespearean monologue, you were the best. I think to Brian's point, it isn't beauty in terms of like sexual attraction, but it's beauty in terms of a talent or an art.
Yeah.
Like he's doing something better than anyone else. When it comes to famous people, celebrities, and people with talents that are, you know, shadow us all, we're very quick to disregard all of the sins that may come with that because you're put on such a pedestal. And so here's Kevin Spacey dragging rocks, the rocks being the skeletons in his closet, and he's being dragged down by the roosters coming home from his past. And very quickly, the media, fans, Netflix bingers are very quick to help carry that load and get him back on his feet because they see him as beautiful. You're beautiful. You're better than the rest. Nobody can give a monologue like you. You're superior. And because of that, I mean, just like a symmetrical face, the stronger person in the tribe, the smarter person in the tribe, those types of people, regular people are willing to kind of open doors for or look the other way. And I think that's what we're experiencing here. Why are you giving a standing ovation? Like I'm total thought experiment.
Okay.
Who's the guy that carved a swastika on his forehead?
That
Marilyn
isn't-
Manson.
Yes. So Marilyn Manson gives the greatest Anne Frank monologue.
Charles Manson.
Charles Manson. That is it.
That's it. Yeah.
Not the
Yeah,
guy
yeah.
that removed his ribs to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Charles Manson gives the greatest Anne Frank monologue you've ever seen.
Okay.
But it's not in the play, just
Okay.
greatest.
All right.
Are you going to applaud him?
Probably, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. No.
Brian, where do you come out on this?
He'll get one clap.
Motherfucker, man. Oh my God.
That's it's separating the art from the artist. And I guess and let's take it back full circle here. Does my clap or claps of support necessarily
Support a Nazi? Yes, it does.
does it necessarily put money in his pocket to be able to use that?
Okay,
to-
but let's say your
for
clap
views.
is a view. So
Okay.
this is in the literal sense of him on a stage, but let's just say when we started this podcast, I had a friend from law school on, and she went on a whole tirade about how everybody was bitching about Dave Chappelle talking about trannies.
Yep.
And how many people who are against anti-LGBTQ, they hate watched Dave Chappelle. And she was like, don't you hate watch anything you dislike because you just gave him the views. So even if it's something you know you don't like, or hey, let's see, jury's out, I want to see if this Nazi's good at what he's doing. The second you click play, you've given him that clap. And even if you dislike it, like it was actually a boo, doesn't matter, had your eyeballs, I made money. So really, are you with, let's just say, in the perfect metaphor to the digital world, if you walked up and you're at the fair and I said, behind this curtain is Charles Manson's greatest performance playing Frank Underwood in House of Cards, 1 penny. Are you going to pay me a penny to see what Charles Manson's got, or before even judging it?
Ooh, see now you put a monetary. Now it's a choice.
But see, you don't see that choice because you've given a bag of pennies every month to Netflix. And Netflix goes, penny for you, penny for you, penny for you. He watched your comedy special. And so so because you weren't so you're giving it to a third party guy who's going to give it to Charles Manson, but it's the same thing.
Mhm.
But that's the perfect ruse of the American consumer. We've got this bait and switch of, well, we don't see it, out of sight, out of mind, and we have really no direct concept of how our attention or money is affecting what we're consuming.
Well, so let me bring up another example here for you as well. So we have the collective consciousness, the reason he was deplatformed to begin with, the reason he was canceled was the collective human society going, no, I don't like this. I don't like you doing this. I'm no longer going to support you. Can that not just continue to be in perpetuity? Well, I still don't really support you. Yeah, I might watch you here and there. That doesn't necessarily mean I support you. And I think some of that comes with the trust of, your fellow mankind.
Hold on. So I love your point.
All right.
The scary part is that's why I was droning on so long about appetite.
Mm-hmm.
Because the sad part is, as a libertarian, I want to go, he was exonerated in the court of law, and now we want to say, sorry, it's incredibly distractive.
Yeah, I tried something different.
He was exonerated in the court of law.
Okay.
So I totally respect you're a free man. At the same time, as a libertarian, I want to have blind faith in my neighbor to go, yeah, you're free, but we still don't vote for you to be on House of Cards. We're still not going to fuel that. The sad part is, and back to the standing ovation, the two-dimensional goldfish eyeballs we have and how shallow we are as a consumer base. I mean, think about how big of a deal it was for people to stop buying Bud Lights. Gillette came out and said, literally demonized men and made fun of toxic masculinity. And how many men saw that Super Bowl commercial and are still buying Gillette? I'm not, but I know there's so much, because again,
There's
it's out of
people out
sight,
there.
out of mind. I already forgot about it. I'm well beyond it. And they made you out to be toxic, and they forgot that you are the customer. So Bud Light was a big deal because that was the first time we actually ever saw it happen. That like you've ever seen people stand for something and actually have an impact. The sad part is we don't stand for anything, and we just consume. So where I want to have faith, and I will inevitably just still have faith in my consumer public, my neighbors are going to fail us, and he's going to come back stronger than ever.
I think that this segued right into the comment that we got.
Oh.
Have y'all seen Cuties on Netflix?
Boom.
I have not personally seen it, but I just kind of looked at it and was like,
I've
"Ooh,
heard
this
about
fits
it.
right
I have,
into our
Well,
topic."
I think that was Will.
That was Will.
I appreciate Will raising that,
Will.
because what was sweet about that is, so if you're unfamiliar with what happened with the Cutie story, it was a story about girls that needed to raise money, and they did that by entering a twerking competition.
Yep.
So it's a movie about like 12-year-old girls twerking.
Yep.
Public lost their mind.
Yep.
Netflix took the position of, well, then just don't watch it. Art is art. And there was such a repulsive result of just like people vehemently standing against it. Netflix actually removed it. They were very resistant at first, and it took a lot of pushback from the public. But to Will's point, it was a perfect example of the public coming together and standing for something. I do think Kevin Spacey makes the next House of Cards or whatever he does. I do think you're going to have a pocket of people that come out and stand against it and try to compel others to do the same. The sad part is, unlike the Cutie situation where it was so directly perverted, I think that the masses are going to be outweighed by the people that are like, just turn it on, have a glass of wine, make your ravioli, and it's going to be just as it's Kevin Spacey. It's a good movie.
Yep. No, yeah. And I still think there's on the other hand of that, I still think there is an appetite to just not want it. I don't think he's all that relevant, even in Hollywood stages, and even when you start reminiscing back to just older movies in general. His movies aren't always brought up all the time. He's a talent, but I don't think he's iconic. So I think
Fair.
unlike Michael Jackson, where unfortunately he's very iconic in the world of music, and you have to respect the craft and respect the songs, but at the same time go, well, I don't like what he did, but hey, he made a good tune.
Great point.
You don't hear that with Kevin Spacey because he doesn't quite have he's not that iconic in the world of now. Tom Hanks, Tom
It's
Cruise,
As
probably
guys
not
it can't be.
and that.
But what's super interesting, I like that you raise that point because I think had Kevin Spacey not experienced this and had another 3 years, he was on such a climb that he was almost at legendary stardom.
Yeah,
Like he was almost
he was
there.
getting there. He was getting pretty close.
And this just tanked the whole uptick. For me, I'm not a fan of Kevin Spacey. I think I've experienced enough evidence to be comfortable in my convictions with this man. I've seen a lot of this fall by the wayside. No conversation about the tweet. I think that video says it all. The series of events and the way that the dominoes fell really lends itself to a guilty man. In that world, I'm going to treat you as such, but I'm not going to cause you physical harm. I'm not going to call for any type. You are a free human being. I want you to live free and give you that avenue for redemption. At the same time, though, I'm not going to be the one that pays for it with my eyes or my dollars.
Oh,
Do
very
you
well
have any
said.
wrapping thoughts?
I think I trust our collective, the collective hive mind to understand and remember the sins of the past and not let it be the reality of the future.
I like that.
Yeah.
Brian, any wrapping thoughts for us?
I mean, I think he's talented, but I've never really been a huge Kevin Spacey fan, so not really.
Keep it on you. Keep it on you because this next subject, we've got parasites in our food, different ones. It's getting scary out here. Brian, if you could give us a quick briefing on what you're.
This is one of the rare Brian topics.
Yeah.
So I know if you scroll on social media like I do, I'm gonna call it frequently. You come across these videos of worms in different foods. Like the two I'm gonna talk about is ketchup and salmon. Heinz ketchup was recently thrown under the bus for having worms in their ketchup, and when I initially looked it up, it said pinworm, and then I looked up pinworm on CDC, and it came back as a very gross and disgusting type of worm that is mostly fed from bacteria in fecal matter. So that kind of made me question what the whole thing was going on there. So then I went back and I looked at what actually it said, and it said tomato pinworm, which is a larva of a moth, a micro moth that comes from third world countries, and it ends up being not harmful to human beings whatsoever.
There's refugees in the tomatoes.
Going into the salmon idea or the salmon topic, you might have seen the Costco video of a woman bringing home salmon and seeing a frozen squiggly worm in her salmon, and it's actually kind of common to have it in any kind of seafood dish if it comes from a less regulated or less quality checked type of seafood. And it turns out, yes, that can actually get you really sick if you eat it raw, but if you cook it or freeze it at such a low temperature, it'll kill that. And if you don't, you eat it raw. I'm going to screen share here so we can all kind of scroll through what I see. Let's go back. Let's add me back in there. All right. So, how is it diagnosed? Or it'll get you really sick. So, luckily, it cannot be transferred from human to human if you do happen to get it. And it mostly comes from not cooking your seafood. And there's your freezing temperatures of -4 degrees for 7 days or -31, which I don't know of I don't know of a chest freezer that can get that cold, but if you can
That's
manage it,
Celsius or Fahrenheit?
-4 Fahrenheit for 7 days or -130,
Yeah, that's real
-31
cold.
Fahrenheit for like 7 hours,
Well, that's more
That's like
realistic.
flash freezing.
15
That's like
hours.
freeze drying.
Right. So yeah, I thought this was going to be a bigger topic.
No, no,
and it
no. So
ended
I'm
up
glad you presented that. So what's interesting is as Brian kind of found the parasites in tomatoes, ketchup, and salmon, ironically, on my own accord, I came across literally this morning getting ready for work that processed chocolates, candies, especially Reese's, they're finding these parasite worms in them. And they're, of course, they know that razor blades don't scare you anymore, that they're going to put razor blades in your Snickers. So the way to get the boogeyman scaring you on Halloween is they know that the parasite has you afraid. The COVID mind virus still exists. So they're out here being like, be afraid of the parasites in your Reese's. And then I've also come across a lot this last like week and a half, 2 weeks, that they're finding a lot of genetic formation or evolutions of parasites in shellfish. They're finding them in oysters, they're finding them in crabs, and they're finding them in shrimp. Okay. I try not to pay this much mind, and Brian put it in her face. My sister also sent it to me like, what are your thoughts on this? But my thoughts, when it keeps getting thrown in my face, is like to hide. Like, I don't want to know. It's good when like our lettuce is poisoning us and they're like, hey, don't eat the lettuce. And then I don't go to Chipotle and get the lettuce. At the same time, though, it seems like everything's got parasites. And at what point do I not want like at some point I'm going to go, okay, this isn't for my betterment. And if it's going to kill me, like if everything's going to kill me, then I'm either Bubble Boy or I'm going to die. And Bubble Boy ain't a life to me. So I'm going to go eat an oyster. And if I croak, whoopsie daisy.
Yeah, so be it.
roll the dice.
Yeah, right.
Well, we'll have a new permanent host of the Rethink
Yeah.
Tank. So don't worry, hey, your podcast is in good hands here. So my first thoughts of this is like, yeah, sure. There's a lot of stuff in your food. So as most of you know, I farm upon occasion. So let me give you an example here that I see daily within the golden fields of Ohio. So wheat, I would say, is one of the crops that's probably closest from farm to table that isn't like a vegetable or a fruit or animal process. So there's a lot of bugs out in the field, a lot of grasshoppers, a lot of worms, a lot of rabbits, snakes, all sorts of different things that just kind of frolic around the field. So when you're harvesting in your combine, you're taking all of it. You're taking the wheat seeds, and they do a pretty good job of shucking that out and getting it through. But if you ever going through a grain bin or you go through the elevator,
You sound like a World Economic shill. You're just like, hey, we're all eating crickets out here. Everybody's had an ant or two.
And rabbit fur.
You've eaten a lot more crickets than I think you realize.
I'm conscious of it, but I'm also not going to let you bait and switch it for my steak. World Economic Forum.
Well, that might be a little bit of a different topic, but when you do commodity farming and like mass farming, when these things get at scale, you're going to have things that slip through the cracks, and definitely there's probably a community of crickets constantly in your box of Wheaties, in your flour. It's all over the place. I promise you. Now, where some of these parasites come through is, well, there's a lot of parasites and bugs. Like, have you ever seen the videos of people putting praying mantises in water and little worms kind of leach off from there? There's all bugs essentially have that to one form of another. And it's just evolution's way of just, it's like the classic, the frog and the snake. They're trying to kill each other. Parasites trying to kill, or stay with the host trying to get rid of the parasite. So that eventually coming into our food, especially in what you're saying, like Heinz, salmon, Reese's, these are all mass market foods. So you're gonna have that in there. And I don't necessarily think it's quite an epidemic. You cook these things, it goes through. It's not gonna be too bad. Now, I probably would really don't buy cheap salmon. Don't buy cheap fish.
But let's also acknowledge the difference between a grasshopper and a parasite, like a virus.
Yep.
Right. So, like Brian was indicating, it takes extreme heat or extreme cold to actually to achieve what we're claiming.
Correct.
A worm, you could literally walk out that door to the flower bed and eat a worm. You can't do that to a parasite that is infectious to our body.
Or at least not all parasites. There's going to be
ones that are specifically infectious to our body.
Correct.
You could not just walk out and consume it. So there's something to, like, even if it gets ground up into your Wheaties, a parasite is a relationship between it and the host. So that parasite can be a bug, a bird, like mammal, anything.
Yeah.
It could also be a virus, a bacteria, something that is not as easily seen or killable. So what Brian had come across and had shown us was like literal worms. But the thing that I've been seeing thrown in front of my face a lot has been bacteria virus based that you can't necessarily see and is in very common products. Well, there isn't much, other than just eating right and eating clean, there really isn't much more you can do unless you want to, like I said, hide in a bubble. I hear you. Be realistic and recognize that, you're sleeping and spiders are walking in your mouth, you're eating them. Yeah, it's a regular occurrence. At the same time, though, back to your point, I understand it's another conversation, but the bait and switch is this narrative that's being sold that it's significantly more common than we want to lend it to believe. And even if it is that common as it's being made out to be, it certainly isn't to outweigh a full steak or a full salad, whatever you are eating in replacement of that. So you also don't want to let this go down a road where it's like just live willy-nilly, totally disregard. And again, you can make a meal of it. Like, I don't know about that.
You know what I'm really afraid of? Microplastics.
That's even worse.
We're
We're eating a credit card's worth
one.
of plastic a day.
Yep. And you
an
can't
American
can't
public.
avoid it. There's no amount of clean eating that can get away from it. You drink filtered water, it's still in there. You go rainwater, take it from the source. There's plastics in the air raining down on us, especially in major metropolitan areas just like Cleveland, and you're going to get it in your food. That's man, I do wish we could ban.
Cheers to David with the Trump card. I got to give it to you. That is like quit worrying about the bugs. You ate a credit card's worth of plastic today.
Yeah. I'm about to be full of petrol.
I'm
here.
worried about getting sick from my oysters. You ate a credit card. Brian, wrapping thoughts.
Well, yeah, and feeding off of David's idea. They're actually talking about table salts being so purely sodium chloride that when they mine it, they actually get microplastics out of it, and that's why they're suggesting to have Himalayan salt, where it comes from a more diverse source of electrolytes, and it's different types of salts. Electrolyte means salt. And you'll get your magnesium, your zinc, your different electrolytes out of your salt.
Yeah, that's why I don't see a whole lot of sea salt anymore. It's still there, still around. That's where the Himalayan salts. There's a whole world of salts, but like kosher salt, all these salts that are not sea based because there's too much plastic in the sea, causing these microplastics, even in something as simple as salt.
Even crazier, of the same vein, there's this thing called the red tide that comes seasonally through Florida and like southern states, but we experience it in Florida. It's normally like just right around now, like November into Christmas, and it's either starting as we're leaving for Christmas or it's just ending as we're getting there for Christmas, but it's always around that time. The red tide makes the water blood red, orange. And when I say the surface, every square inch of the ocean is covered in dead fish. I mean, giant manatees, like every fish from the depths to the shoreline minnows covered the ocean. You drive along the seaside and it just reeks. I mean, it's putrid. You just smell dead fish. And it's from all of the from the agriculture, all of the formula that they use for what's the word? Formulas you use for plants.
Oh, fertilizers.
Fertilizers.
Probably nitrogen.
All the
is big one.
runoff, it's specifically nitrogen. All the runoff from the fertilizers go to the ocean, kill all these fish. As it works its way down, it kills all the fish, but then it also brings the dead fish with it down the whole coast of the state. And it's like, I got to imagine 50 years ago, this wasn't just like, yeah, in the summer, it's sunny. In the spring, it rains. In the winter, it snows. And in October, we have dead fish. Like, I just don't think it was the seasoned nature.
No, I don't think Christopher Columbus really talked about that much in his voyage. No, it's I hate some of the stuff I just hate. Just like how we both hate cruise ships very much.
Yeah,
they throw just trash when they're out in the middle of the ocean. It's international waters. No one's holding them accountable.
Police it there.
And no one's policing it. So they just throw trash in the ocean.
Nobody's in charge of me here.
Just dump human waste right in the ocean. Oh, it's
Brian, wrapping thoughts. Because my
really on a downer
I'm
note
good.
here.
I think we covered everything. And
my wrapping thought is you're gonna burn elsewhere before you eat a worm that's gonna kill you. So just live life. It's just again, we've got bigger fish to fry.
We do.
And not the fish at the market because it's got worms. Thoughts?
Oh, I agree. I think there's protect our oceans. Really, instead of protecting our parks, protect our oceans. Don't throw trash in the oceans. Don't piss in the oceans. We got too much of that going on anyway. But yeah, this was a good one. This was a fun one. We're glad to have you back. You know,
I came back. I've got my thinking cap on. I'm dressed just like Dustin. I normally with this getup with this shirt, they have their Hellfire shirt on, but at the Rethink Tank, we're men of Christ. So I wore my Not Afraid to Rethink shirt and kept the rest of the Dustin getup. But, got my thinking cap on, so we brought our A game. It's a Halloween Horror Nights themed and everything.
2023 special.
Very, very official. But I couldn't be happier to be back. You guys did a great job. If you guys missed it, Don and David had really great dialogue on some really pertinent issues, specifically
the Israeli Palestine.
Their take on the Israeli-Palestine conflict is a lot more digestible and grounded. But I think mine hits a little bit more of the harder truth. Anyway, guys, thank you for joining us. If we made you laugh, if we made you think, the best thing you could do to support this show is share this episode. Again, we're up against algorithms that don't like free dialogue and allowing you to think. The last thing they want you to remember is the little tidbits about their pervert friend, Kevin Spacey. The way to do that is to not let conversations and shows like this get out there. So the best way to combat that is share this link. That's the best way to show your support. Otherwise, you can catch all of our content on our website at www.rethinktankpodcast.com. Tomorrow morning, it actually kind of came out this morning, but then I deleted it because I caught a little editing
I noticed
flaw.
that.
But coming out first thing tomorrow morning at 7 is so here's where I'm at about NPCs. I genuinely can promise you there are some good laughs in there and some great dialogue about where we're at as a people. So check that out. But like I said, catch all of our content on our website, and we'll catch you next week, 7 p.m. every Tuesday. Thanks, guys.
Subscribe on Threads.
Yes,
Rumble.
And
Rumble. Yeah,
Rumble.
we need more Rumble people.
Yeah, we need Rumble. We're
That's
this close to going live on Rumble.
Oof.
Hopefully we see you there next week.
All right. That's a wrap, fellas.